This episode of Fairy Tail, to put it into perspective, I could kind of compare it to a certain type of video game. And what I mean by that is, it's one of those video games where the graphics are beautiful, it looked very nice, it was appealing on the eyes, and it even had a good bit here or there, but for the most part it felt kind of boring, and not all that much really happened. I felt like definitely a lot of stretching of the material, and it did have setup in it, but for the most part of this episode, it really just felt like they were trying to stretch things along. Like, for starters, the recap, we had like a recap in the beginning, then you have the opening, then you have another recap, and I was just like, whoa, where did this come from? So you could definitely see that they're trying their very best to not catch up, and with this episode, they were just like stretching things out. There was filler bits in it, and filler bits, if it adds to the story or something, it can be good, but for the most part, some of the filler bits were just absolutely unnecessary. Like, Mavis just like making jokes and talking to Biska and Asuka and stuff like that. Like, none of that was necessary, and it was just like irrelevant, just, you know, stretching material in there. And, you know, if it was funny or something, or it was enjoyable, I would have been like, okay, you know, whatever. But it just felt like it was completely misplaced, especially in the midst of, like, you got a tournament going on, epic battles, and then you have this stuff in the dungeon going on, or this, you know, cell, or whatever the hell you want to call it, this imprisonment that Natsu and those people are in. And, you know, while there's comedy in there, for the most part, it's supposed to be a serious situation as well. Then you just cut back to, like, some Mavis stuff, which was kind of, you know, just really irrelevant as hell. This episode, it started off all right. Again, it was setting things up, setting the matchups and whatnot, and I will say that the ending was actually very good, with Arcadios jumping in the lava. That stuff was good as well, but just everything in the middle was just like, oh my gosh, like, they're constantly just like talking like, yes, well, when I use my knife, I will do this, and it'll be amazing, you have no chance. And it was just like a lot of that within this episode, and it had its good moments again, the intro and the ending with Arcadios. The animation and art was actually really beautiful for this one. I was like, why is the animation and art looking so good? Like, Lucy looking amazing when she's there, like, struggling on the rock, like, no, I don't want to die, you know, stuff like that. So it actually looked really nice, and just the art was like really beautiful, top of the line there. But it was just so much of just stretching the material, and it was doing good setup in a sense, like, okay, you got the matchup set, but it was just stretching it. Like, in the manga, this was like no more than like 2 or 3 chapters, I remember, and even then, I just really didn't care for it, because these villains, as you can see in this one, I guess they're trying with the anime to make them a little bit more credible with some of the little filler bits that we have, with like Wendy getting captured and little bits like that. So the anime is trying to make them look a little bit more serious, but I really cannot take them serious. I cannot take Cosmo serious. I can't take Tai serious. Like, they just really... they're crusty. That's the best way to put it. Stretching out some crusty-ass villains that we don't need. We also got a setup as well for what seemingly is going to be like Miliana might fight Minerva or something like that. So it was like hinting at that, I think. So that was a little good bit as well. It was like, this episode, it had good bits spread throughout. Good setups, I guess that was like the best thing about it, but a lot of in-canon filler, and just overall stretching these setups out. Like, I don't need constant dialogue of them back and forth before they even start the battle. I mean, literally, Natsu throws the first punch as the episode is ending, so definitely this episode, it had a lot of problems with it. It did have some good moments to it, and the art and animation was really good, so balancing it all out together, I was in the middle between, like, is this like a 5, like an average, or maybe like a 6, a fine? I'm going to meet it halfway, I'm going to meet it in the middle, give this episode a 5.5 out of 10. It was average in the middle between the two, because it did have, again, some good moments, and overall, I felt like it was making Arcadio seem a little bit more relevant and giving him a purpose, like, oh, hey, you know, he's willing to throw his life on the line for all this shit that's going down, so that was good for that particular character. And again, it was some decent setups, but it was just completely stretched out and dragged out. And while I'm a fan of not catching up to the manga, so that way we don't have, like, to go through filler bits, so in that aspect, I understand it, but it just didn't, like, have those parts where it's like, okay, you know, like, if the Mavis stuff was actually funny or enjoyable or added to the character or something like that, it would have made sense, but it's her talking to, like, a little girl and, like, oh, that's okay, I've been a headmaster for years. It's like, we don't need that. So unfortunately, it seems as though they're trying to kill us with the executioners, stretching the shit out of them. But again, it had its moments. Let me know what you guys think of this episode. What did you think about the setups? Do you take the executioners serious, or do you think that they're just completely crusty? Like, for me, it's like, oh man, the anime, like last week I would have said, yeah, last week it was actually alright, you know, it was setting things up, they were making them look a little bit better. And again, this episode was doing that, but I just can't take them serious, especially the way they're stretching things out. It's like, oh, I don't need any more than there already is in the manga of the Executioners. And overall, what do you think of the episode? Did you get a little bit excited, and did you feel it in the end where Arcadios was jumping in the lava to save Lucy and Yukino? That was hands down the best moment of the episode. It looked nice, it was really impactful, and it just overall gave the character a relevant role other than just being like, you know, the fucking Pinocchio character of this arc. So again, 5.5 out of 10, slightly above average, but not even fine. It was just like too much problems in it for me to say like, yeah, it was fine. It was just slightly above average, and that was a lot due to the art, animation, and that final moment. But that's all I have for this review. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you liked anything I had to say, or if you enjoyed the video, got a laugh out of it, I'd appreciate a like. It definitely would mean a lot. I'm ForneverWorld, and as always, people, have an awesome day.